Hello. Well, I decided to turn down my studio lighting. What the hell? It's after 1 a.m. in the morning, and I just thought, well, it's wine o'clock somewhere. If the Lord spares me next year, I'll be 60. And I'm at the age where I've actually lost some people that were close to me. Not just parents. My parents had a pretty good innings, as they say. But guys that I've lost in their, 40s and 50s and maybe 60s. And I nearly joined them myself a couple of years back. And technically, for a while, I was gone. But I've come back to haunt you all. Um, and I can tell you, when I was gone, I was gone. I can't say I was floating above a surgery table somewhere, um, because I was just gone. Between the wonderful world of anesthetics and whatever else is out there, I was history. So on Monday night, I decided to do a little exercise here. And these guys had been on my mind, so there was four in particular. So I sat down here behind me. I lit a candle and I spoke to each of them. They weren't there, but I was trying to contact them individually, just hoping that they'd give me a sign. They'd switch a light on or off, or knock the desk or the wall or the window or anything, just a sign. And with each of them, I spoke to them and I told them what they had meant, their friendship had meant, and camaraderie, and the fun we used to have, and the qualities that each of them had, and the effect they had on me. Um, and these are guys that are really close to me. And of course, I got nothing in return. And ironically, that was kind of closure. Now, it might have been a bad night, or an off night, because I've always kept an open mind on spirituality, paranormal, whatever you want to call it. And that all dates back to when I was a kid in the early to mid 70s, and I witnessed, in an old house I grew up in, for all intents and purposes, a ghost or an apparition, whatever. I won't get into that now, but that's why, I'm inclined to always keep an open mind, because we don't know. But, I called out, if you like, in the nicest way, each of them, and I heard nothing. And the reward in that, ironically, was um, that a line had been drawn under them and they were at peace and they were at rest. Or if they were in another dimension, they certainly weren't going to come back and talk to me about it. They had moved on, and, all as I had left was the memories. And today, I thought of two more guys, you know, and they were in companies that I wasn't in for very long, but I'd got to know them. So the other guys previously, I'd been with them for years. But both of them were relatively young men. The first guy was in his early to mid 50s, and I met him in a TV station, and we would do sales calls together and stuff. I was doing some presenting as well back then, but I was also, because I had a sales background. Anyway, we were out on the road together, and he would tell me these amazing stories about when he was in London, in his 20s, and he had been on some serious drugs and drug trips, and he was like a physician's handbook. He could tell me, that whatever we thought was really lethal, like heroin and stuff, was a picnic at Hanging Rock as far as he was concerned, because he had done everything. He was on everything but skates. Forgive me if I'm a bit sniffly. I have a slight cold. Um, and he rang in one morning. I knew he wasn't great at times. There was depression or alcoholism there. Something was still lingering despite him getting through the drugs. And he rang in, and I just happened to pick up the phone, and he was incoherent. He was saying he wasn't going to be in today, and his father had died, or whatever they say these days, passed, recently, and he was going, I just want to give him a hug. He sounded kind of drunk and incoherent, and this was like at 9 a.m. in the morning. And I said, look, stay where you are, give me your address, I'm going to come and see you. And I did. And his house was in this, relatively middle class area, very respectable. But when I went into it, it was a hovel. It literally was squalor. You couldn't see the carpet for dog feces. It was that bad. There was a horrendous stink off the place. Carpets were chewed up. There was feces on the couch. It really was. You wouldn't believe this guy was holding down a 9 to 5 with a suit and tie. It was fucking horrendous. And we went out on the beach together and we walked his dog. And at one point in the house as well, after we came back, I noticed there was some cassette tapes, you know. It was a good few years ago. And I realised, hang on, this guy's got a 14-year-old daughter. So some kid was growing up in that squalor. And I left the station and I went on to do other stuff. But I used to ring him. We kept in touch. We say ring here, like that's real 70s talk. But I used to phone him on his mobile, and he wasn't responding. And I used to say, "Hey, what story? Are you dead? Are you dead?" And one day, some guy rang me, and he said, "Yeah, he is dead. You know, they don't know whether he had a brain hemorrhage at the top of the stairs or he fell down the stairs and had a brain hemorrhage at the bottom of it, but he's dead." So that was a shocker. And then the other guy I was thinking of was a few years before him, and he was a character. You know, he was a sales guy like myself, but he was a scruffy. He was almost like Columbo. Do you remember Columbo? But he had a charm with women I'd never seen before, equalled or since, and he could just charm them off the trees. And he was a philanderer, because this guy at the time was married. I wasn't married. But I'd go out with him to clubs and stuff and get pissed with him and try and pull women. And he was just, you know, he had this kind of charm. And in sales, I knew he was doing what we call ropey business. You know, it wasn't trustworthy business, or wasn't sound. And even though the company were like, you know, lauding and applauding him, I knew, because I had joined from somewhere with real ethics, that it wasn't gonna end well. And it didn't. I think they were in court together afterwards, and whether they lost or he lost, I don't know. I took him home one night, not to my house, to his own, because I felt guilty. He was out, and his wife was there, and she was looking at me like I was persona non grata, like you're leading him astray kind of thing. I didn't believe me. He didn't need leading, you know. And she was beautiful. I think she was an ex-model or something, and he had a child, and he was always talking about the boy, you know, his little boy. And one day I was leaving the house that I'd lived in for 25 years, you know, and you know, I was literally closing the door on the place. My parents had moved on, and I went up for something, and I said, "That's it now. That's the end of, you know, where I used to live for 25 years." And he said to me, "Are you sad about that?" And I said, "No. In retrospect, I am." I said, "No, not particularly." And he went, "Well, I am." That's the kind of guy he was. You know, a charmer, like, and I think he meant it. You know, "Well, I am. I'm sad about it." Jeez, what the fuck are you sad about? You've never even set eyes on the place until now. But anyway, one night we were coming out of a club, and a taxi man pulled up, "Taxi for Murphy, taxi for Murphy," or something like that. And he goes, "Yeah, that's us." And it wasn't. You know, I would never do anything like that. You know, he could think on his feet. And time went on. I moved away, or moved to another company or whatever. And subsequently, you know, he went on to somewhere else, and he was to do a sales demonstration one morning, and he didn't show up. And the clients showed up. "Where is he? He's supposed to be giving us a demonstration." And he had ended his own life. And it wasn't pretty by all accounts. However, he had done it. Someone I knew that knew what happened wouldn't go into details, but he said it wasn't pretty. So anyway, I raise a glass to these two guys tonight, and to you for enduring what must sound like a lot of garbled, alcohol-fueled rubbish. Good night.